Mhm. Yay!
Yay!
Hello, Susie. Welcome everyone to Angels in Action, December 4th, 2023. Welcome and come on in, even if you're on the rebroadcast. Susie, how are you today?
Oh, good. Glad to sit down for 5 minutes and have some time for myself.
I hear you.
It's a busy few days, busy few weeks at the moment. So I'm transitioning from one home to another one. So it's just been, I try and pop back every day if I can, or at least every couple of days, just to take bits and pieces, boxes of stuff, unpack, clean, do all the usual moving. I can't move the big stuff for another couple of weeks yet, but yeah. So I've been doing all of that. So I was at the new house today, just cleaning and setting up, and yes. So
Always exciting.
oh, very.
Never
But I know you've just not long moved yourself, so you know what it's like, don't you? Boxes everywhere. Everything looks very green behind me, but I can assure you it's not.
Oh, I mean, it takes a while to settle in, honestly,
It surely does, yeah. So
it's an internal and an external process. And, that reminds me too that, the past few weeks anyway, I feel have just been really just, wild, for lack of a better term. There are
sure.
a lot of changes going on
Yeah.
energetically, astrologically, socially, individually. There's so much going on, and it's almost insane the things that I hear about just with friends and colleagues and clients on a daily basis just over the past week or two. My husband, my family, myself, just like you've been going through as well, the amount of crazy things that have been going on just within a day. I mean, it's been wild. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
hang tight, everyone. We will get through this. Just let go, but hang tight, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've literally not, my boss popped round. I'm borrowing some equipment to help me move the big heavy stuff. So he brought that round to me earlier on, just before getting on here. And even he's saying what is going on in the world at the moment, not just for him and his life, but for people around him, colleagues, friends, family. And there does seem to be an awful lot of shifting of energy, isn't it? I guess that's taking place, with people's ailments, house moves, job changes, losing. Somebody messaged me the other day, really upset for a friend of theirs because they'd out of the blue lost their job. So, and she was like, "Can you just help me with the angels?" And so I gave her some hints and tips on what to tell her friend so that she could call on the angels to just help settle her in, because obviously she walked into work to be told she was no longer needed. So that in itself is a huge traumatic shock. So hi Deborah, thanks to popping in, Angel, lovely to see you. So yeah, there's lots going on, I think, just for all of us, isn't there? And I guess what I was reminded of about it all is we instantly, and it's human, we do step into fear, or if not fear, but some sort of anxiety around the situations that are taking place, the worry, not necessarily always worry for ourselves, but worry for the other person as well. And as you know, I did this a couple of weeks ago. I ended up falling into that mindset of anxiety, worrying about what is. And then it took me a moment or two to just really reconnect. So I started looking for little meditations that I could follow, even if they were just only 5 or 10 minutes of just having to sit still and listen to them, so that I could just recalibrate my energy and get back into flow again. And now that I'm back in that lovely space of flow, everything is flowing with ease and grace. And it's amazing how it's so easy to get flipped out of that flow of energy into the anxiety, the ego, the mind, whatever. But one of the things that I do like now is I'm quite able to flip myself back relatively quickly, I would say. I don't think any of us are perfect enough to say we can do it instantly or anything like that. But so I just find it, I'm just finding reconnecting with little short meditations, because I used to sit and listen to really long ones and I loved those and I'd really go off. But I just at the moment find I get a little fidgety around really long ones. And I'm not quite sure why that is. So I'm finding little short bursts of 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe a couple of times a day. And that's just really helping. So that was one of the things that I shared as a tip to my friend, to share to her friend. So yeah.
I think that's important. And I think that we need to remember, working with angels and spirit or not, there's still always, there's an element of responsibility that is just ours, and that working with the angels is working with spirit guides, working with spirit, working with anybody, is us in our current human form doing that. That means that we have a mind. And I know that a lot of times in broadcasts like this, people come on and they want readings and they want to talk about the fun spiritual stuff. But it's important for us to remember that the problems and the challenges and our reactions to them come from the fact that we have a mind. So, just like with a vehicle, and I mean, you know this so well, Susie, I just think this is so important to share for the audience. We need these constant reminders that our mind is not something that we have when we're in non-physical state.
No.
It is something that is a tool and a gift and a blessing and an opportunity, because just like a vehicle, it takes us places, it gives us experiences, but at the same time, comes with its challenges. If you misuse the vehicle, or you don't know how to drive the vehicle, or you don't maintain the vehicle, if you don't maintain control of the vehicle, if you don't maintain some sort of control of your mind, which most of us are not even aware that we need to have. Most people are still operating under the philosophy, conscious or unconscious, that, I can't control my thoughts. I have these thoughts, this and that happens to me. Well, I just want to remind all of our listeners, as we go into talking about angels in the spirit world, that you as a current human being, everything that you sense, you actually sense with your brain. And then that is interpreted. And then you think about it and you analyze it with your mind. So when you see something, your eyes are not actually seeing it. Your eyes are filtering the energy, the electromagnetic energy and the frequency. And then your brain is interpreting it. And then your mind is interpreting it. And so the more we become aware of our thoughts and sensitive to the subtleties of our thoughts and feelings, the more we can say, oh, this anxiety or this stress or this reaction doesn't have to last 10 hours, 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years. It can last 10 minutes. It can last 10 seconds. And this is what real, true mindset work that Thay was teaching, the grand teacher from Vietnam, that he was teaching. And it's actually a spiritual practice. So when we're working with the angels, one of the things they actually remind us of is they are reminding us and working with us from the state that we are when we're not here. And so when we work with them, we have to, obviously, as human beings, this is what Susie and I are here to help you guys do, use our minds to put into the language we understand, the identification, the terms, the labels that we understand, so we can apply that also to our mindset, to our mental decisions, to our awareness of how and what we're thinking. And then we can interpret and we can apply practically the guidance, the love, the support, the protection from angels, which are operating at an entirely different frequency. And I just think that's important to keep in mind. Don't forget, as you're doing this, as you're listening to us, as you're asking us questions, as we're helping you work through things, that your mind is the part that is creating your challenges and problems and your perception of them. And you have control, whether you realize it or not, that you can change that perception. We can't leave that mind part out. But we can work with the angels to help align the mindset part to align us with our higher selves. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there because everybody is going through a lot of things right now. And why are we going through them? Because
absolutely, yeah. You know, I was, I don't even know what I was thinking about. Not last night, the night before. But I remember as I drifted off to sleep, it was like, oh, you know, I just really need to get back into being sort of recalibrated, I guess is the word I used, something along those lines. And I had a little conversation before I fell asleep. And I don't always specify which angel I'm talking to. I just sort of put it out there as a universal whole, really. And then I got up in the morning and we'd had a big downfall of snow overnight.
Wow.
And yeah, hence one of the reasons I was struggling to get on tonight. It's been affecting the internet up here. So anyway, I looked out the front door and a car that had been parked out had obviously left. But in the way that they'd reversed back and forwards to get out of the drive area, they actually formed two heart shapes in the snow. And I was like, oh my goodness, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is, you know. So it even for me, it was like, yeah, they've listened, they've heard. And just that, seeing that, those shapes, those hearts in the snow, I was like, okay, what is this message for me now? What am I needing to focus on? And I do talk a lot, and as does Larkin, we talk a lot about self-care, self-love. They're not terms that we actually really sort of resonate with, but it's the buzzwords. It's the words that people recognize. It's the best way in the English language at the moment that we can describe that internalization of taking care of yourself, of nurturing yourself. So I sort of sat with a new deck of cards arrived that I've ordered from a friend, and they're really funky and funny and quirky, completely different to anything I've ever sort of used before. And the first card that came out was self-love. And I'm like, right, okay, this is me. And those of you that know me, that work with me and that, you know, I'm very much somebody who does take care of myself. I do nurture myself. I do lots of nice things for me, be that, you know, a manicure or a nice soak in the bath, these little things. But I had to be reminded that also as well, it's the way, as Larkin was saying, that we process things, the way that we think about stuff, and then we just process those thoughts into images or into what ifs almost, rather than thinking, okay, this is me caring for myself and I am doing what I need to do. I'm in the right place in the right moment. And that's all I really need to be aware of, that I am all right in this moment and not worry about what is out there. I don't want to say future or anything like that, but just what is out there, that we then go into this imagination, don't we, of thinking that's that. And so, yeah, so it was nice to get that sort of double whammy of signs and messages yesterday morning to bring me back into sync.
Absolutely. That reminds me, it's interesting. I had a story about that too. And I want you guys, as you listen to our stories, think about in your own life how things are going, not judging it. Are they doing the way I want or not? Are they doing good or bad? Which really is just a judgment of your ego. Are they going the way your ego thinks they should to get what you want or not? That's really what our good or bad means, because when we're in that way of thinking, we're not thinking from a higher frequency. The higher frequency, the angelic way of the spirit guide way, the spirit way of perceiving and being conscious is everything is in process. Not things are going good or things are going bad. Okay, your spirit guide, your angels. I just did a whole thing on spirit guides, guys, on Saturday. So go to my Larkin Psychic Medium page and listen to that. Spirit guides get so forgotten. Spirit guides and angels, your loved ones, they have a totally different perspective than you do because you're here in human form, right? So keep in mind that, Susie and I are here saying how crazy things are, how wild everything is for everyone. And on a down to earth plane, cognitive level, this is true. But in the big picture of things, if you're going through a lot right now and you're going, oh my gosh, things aren't going so well or things are going badly. Okay, shift that perspective to raise your vibration. Shift that perspective to raise your vibration, right? Instead of thinking, things aren't going well, I'm having a hard time, I'm struggling. Okay, it's okay to be aware of that. But the higher perspective of that is everything is in transition. Everything is in process. When we perceive it as good or bad, we're perceiving it as I like and I don't like. And that becomes our most common modality for thinking and perceiving, right? And so, I challenge you guys to really step outside the box and think to yourself, to not believe anything you're thinking. Don't believe me. Don't believe Susie. Don't believe your own thoughts. Because everything that is a thought is limited to that egoic self. And when we can step back and we can get more into perception mode and recognize our thoughts as something separate. Our thoughts are thoughts. And as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, emotion is the mind and the body. So, if you want to get a glimpse into angelic perspective or non-physical perspective, or the perspective you had is broader than what you have here, just simply start shifting to using the what if, for example, like, Susie mentioned, we so often are like, oh, what if? And we do that when we're afraid of things or we're stressed or we're worried. We do it in a negative sense. But what about doing it in a positive sense? What if things were working out for me? What if my angels have got this? What if I couldn't make a wrong decision? What if there is no such thing as a wrong decision, right? What if you get to broaden your perspective? Because I've been a manifesting coach, guys, for almost 20 years. And what I noticed is that there are a lot of flaws in the manifesting coaching industry. And it's to make money. And most of the coaches don't even realize they're doing this. But the truth is that everything is in process. We're never going to have everything going up, the way we want them on a high peak. That's never going to happen because we're here in life. What is going to happen, what can happen, is you're going to have ups and downs, and you're meant to have ups and downs. The question is, how long do those downs last? And what do you do with them? And can you make the waves smaller? And we do that by not reacting, by focusing on working with our angels and spirit guides, by having faith and trusting, by remembering who we are and working inward, so that we are not allowing the ego to take us on these roller coaster rides. And before I turn this over to Susie, I want to share with you all today. I'm going to put a little black cherry.
Oh, very nice.
Here, I found this one. I have so many different incense flavors, but I want to share that with you guys. And I always invite everyone to light a candle, light some incense, Susie and I love to, invite you all to have a delicious beverage, just so you can create an environment of sitting down and relaxing with us, and really altering your senses a little bit, so you can enjoy this time with the angels in a whole different way.
Yeah, I think listening to you sharing there, one of the things that was coming to mind for me while we're talking about that is I love the little exercise that you give us. And again, going back slightly, Larkin and I have known each other probably for getting on for 3 years now. And one of the things that Larkin taught me very early on was to be the observer of my thoughts, but also to have no thought, but also to, not believe in thought as well. And it all became very like, oh, wow, how do I do that? But the more you practice it, the more it becomes natural is one way to describe it. But one of the things that I found for me as an individual is when I was in that process and perhaps having the little struggle of how do I not have a thought, or how do I be the observer of my thought, or how do I not believe my thought, I would think, how do I do that? And it is a struggle. It was a struggle to begin with, but now it feels like it's just something that's happened organically over the years of practicing it, by simply just sitting there and thinking to myself, okay, I don't believe that thought. And interestingly, when I've said that, a different thought has popped in, and it's given me a perspective of whatever it is that I've had that thought about from a different viewpoint. And then so it's then, okay, where did that thought come from? So I don't believe that thought. And as you process it, everything there's just like this subtle shift of energy within you that goes, and there is no thought. I over the years, I've had many conversations with people where they've said, you can't possibly not have a thought in your head. There will always be a thought in your head. And it may only be for a few seconds, a quantum leap. How to describe that, I don't know. But I can sit and not have a thought in my head now. But one of the tools that I also used and still use, and use it for lots of other things as well, is that if this is something that you want to practice and feel that it could be a struggle for you to practice, just use the Ho'oponopono of, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Because while you're saying these words, you're not thinking, because you're speaking, so there's no thought process going on. But you're shifting your energy and your vibration into a place of gratitude and forgiveness. And for me, they are two very, very big parts of spiritual growth and development. When you have these senses of gratitude, senses of forgiveness. And again, this can be a whole topic of conversation. We can go down the rabbit hole with this one. But I do feel that I found it very beneficial to be able to do that. And I do feel, for me, that was part of the process of being able to work with the process of no thought, or not believing your thought, because it gave me a tool, if you like, to put into practice. Because I'm somebody I always describe myself as an experiential learner. If I need to or want to learn something, I learn it by doing it. I can read all the books you can give me to read. I can write all the words that I want to write. But until I actually do it, whatever it is, I don't retain it. And I've been like that ever since I can remember. And it's just my way of learning. But the minute I do something, I embrace it, I incorporate it, it becomes natural and innate for me. So using Ho'oponopono is always such a wonderful way for me to process things as well. I hope that makes sense.
Makes beautiful sense. And I have several things I want to respond to, Susie. And I don't mean to undo what you just did, but I want to go back to the comment that I highlighted from Deborah before.
All right. Yeah. Sorry.
I think it was this one. Yeah. I put that, I wanted to kind of remind myself to mention that. And I also want to comment on what you said. First of all, I can vouch for Susie, and I actually am so excited and delighted to hear Susie, say that, yeah, she has discovered and is able to go without thought. This is something that Eckhart Tolle tries to encourage and reminds people that they can be in their being. If you read The Power of Now, where you read Stillness Speaks, which again, all of my clients are required to read. They don't all, but that's part of the curriculum for my coaching. And it is possible to not have thought. And, thanks to Eckhart Tolle, I did what he recommended. And I went, I've been a TM meditator since I was 4 years old. But I went ahead and hi, Tristan, welcome. I went ahead and I practiced what he recommends, which is just trying that 1 second at a time. Just that one moment, of not thinking. And then you can do it for 2, and then you can do it for 3. And now I can do it for, an hour or more at a time. So it is so peaceful. And I want to I'm not going to be long on this today. I'm not going to elaborate on this long. I think Susie's, her comment about using the Ho'oponopono meditation is such an excellent one, because one of the reasons that we meditate, and I won't get on my soapbox of meditation, Susie knows what that is most meditations, things being called meditations, are not meditations. Meditation is one thing and one thing only. It is single-pointed focusness. And it has been misused, abused, mislabeled, and sold for the sake of making money and making people famous. But the truth is that a guided meditation is not the same thing as you meditating. And meditation means basically you are conscious, you are awake, but free of thought, free of conscious thought. And so Susie's recommendation, and you can use this for, you can use other mantras as well. But the whole point of the mantra, or the Zen meditations, for example, where they'll count forwards and backwards to 10, the simplest one is like counting up to 10 and then backwards from 10. It's a way of focusing the mind so that the consciousness can return to its true state. And I'm going to say this. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are an experience that the being you are, the consciousness you are, is having. You are, as Eckhart Tolle says, the observer behind your thoughts. So if you want to experience that true peace, meditation, not thinking are ways to get there. They're gateways, as Eckhart Tolle says. But, we're talking about angels and angels in action here. For those of you thinking, why are we talking about this? Well, this is where angels come from. I don't mean it's where they arise from. I mean, it's the spirit of the consciousness of spirit, that which you're here to learn how to work with. Spirit guides, angels, loved ones, they're in a constant state of the being that you are, that is the observer behind your thoughts. So if you really want to understand where are they coming from, how do they perceive, how are they, what place are they working with you from? Who are they really working with when they're working with you? You're interacting with them from your egoic mind, but actually they're also working with your soul. You just might not be conscious of it. But the real you isn't the personality or any of that you have here as a human. It's that observer behind your thoughts. So when you have a thought and you're aware of your thoughts, it actually liberates you in the greatest sense of the word, because it allows you for a split second to just be who you are. And the problem with thought is we identify who we are with our thoughts. I'm depressed. I'm lonely. I'm single. I'm sick. I'm poor, I'm hungry, no, you're not. You are thinking the thoughts that identify with that experience that you are having, but it is not who you are. And when we recognize that, we're so liberated. Now, I could go on for hours about that. I'm not going to. I love Deborah's comment. Yes, the processes are filtered out through the reaction through thoughts and experiences. That's not the one. Hold on. It's the one about not thinking. She said something. Oh, yes. Wait a second. Darn, why can't I find it? There was a comment about is that it? Yes. It must be such a blissful moment to have no thoughts. Thank you, Susie. Susie can always find the comment I'm looking for, and I cannot find it again. It's crazy. It must be such a blissful moment to have no thoughts, tapping into your awareness. I will see if I can attain this in my reality. So, Deborah, thank you for sharing that. It is blissful. And the reason it's blissful is because we're born into this world, and our entire lives, what we seek is the unconditional love, acceptance, bliss, and peace and joy that we have and connection that we have when we're in non-physical. We're here in this world to be able to experience the essence of the being that we are when we're not here while we're here through the human experience. And that is a challenge. But as we do that, as each of us does that, we increase the vibration of the planet. We increase the vibrational frequency of human consciousness. We expand the realms and the universe. So we're contributing to everything, the expansion of evolution and consciousness and God source energy. We literally bring it through into this world to make the world a better place when we learn to be present, when we learn to be in the now. And how do we do that? We do that ultimately by being able to be and experience thoughts as experiences and choose thoughts as choices instead of allowing them to run our lives. And I'm going to put my story off again because I've talked too long, but I will come back with the story I'm going to share that the angels helped me with when I've talked in a smaller framework of time. Sorry, Susie, you had a comment.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. We are as we are, which is always good.
It's a flow.
One of the things that I feel like I would like to say with this comment here, it must be such a blissful moment. I think for me, what's coming up around that is the word blissful. State of bliss is something that is said to be attained through a variety of practices, in ways that perhaps we, as the ego mind, the human physical body, may feel that we can never attain. You know, it's blissful states are often referred to by those, I want to say the gurus that sit on the top of the mountain forever, you know, just not doing anything, or we get to a blissful state where we go into a out-of-body experience. You know, the moment of bliss that I described in one of the previous lives that we did when I had the angelic experience of levitating off the steps. That was very blissful for me. Another state of bliss that I achieved was having my near-death experience when I had an anaphylaxis. So I think for me, I would want to change this word from blissful to peaceful, because I feel that even though you're acknowledging this as being a blissful moment to have no thought tapping into your awareness, yes, there is the potentiality that that could be a blissful moment. But bliss is, for me, a very, very high vibrational energy state to get into. And even though you are speaking these words, you're having this conscious thought, your subconscious is going, you won't achieve bliss, because bliss is a different energy state and a state that potentially you won't achieve bliss. So therefore, It's preventing you on an awareness level, on a conscious level, of achieving this reality of no thought, because it doesn't believe you can achieve it, because it doesn't believe you can achieve bliss. So I would reframe this into it will be such a peaceful moment, or some other description that is achievable, because we can all achieve peace. We can all achieve peace of mind. We can all achieve a peaceful moment in our day. I know Deborah, she's been a friend of mine for years, and she has the most beautiful garden. She also has the most beautiful opportunity to go and walk sandy beaches. And I know in those moments that she can achieve peace in that. And that's what I would do to reframe this as a way of then having the potentiality of achieving that reality.
And I want to thank you, Susie, because the thing that actually first caught, I want to second what Susie's saying, because if you notice in my first response to Deborah's comment, I stuffed peace in there. I said it brings you peace. You mentioned blissful as peace. So Susie and I are both getting the same information for you. I just want to kind of verify that, how powerful that message is. And that was the first thing that actually popped up, because really what we all really want is peace. Think about it. It's the absence of stress and worry. It's also the absence of wanting and needing. So peace is like the ultimate neutral ground and state of being. It's who and what you are before the ego says, I'm not enough. I want more. I have to be this. I'm afraid of that. Right. So I just want to because actually wanting to share that message about peace is actually the reason I wanted to bring this comment up. And Susie, you did such a beautiful job, but I just want to second that, because it really, really is important. And what I see, that you made me think of this, Susie, just to elaborate a little on what you're saying. If you guys look around in the world, what you'll notice is that you have people with no money or who are struggling financially, who talk about or want to be, or get into a coaching program, for example, because they want to be millionaires or billionaires. You see people that have miserable relationships or no relationships, or they always choose terrible, unhealthy, very traumatic relationships. And they have this idea they want to go all of a sudden to the dream relationship. And what Susie was talking about is so significant, recognizing the size of the gap between where you are and what your ideal is, or what your expectations are for where you want to go. When we're trying to manifest that, as Susie was mentioning, we have a tendency to, I don't like the word unrealistic and I never use it, but I'm going to use it in this case for lack of a better term because of the need for use of words. It's very unrealistic for us to make that leap. You know, you're on this canyon and you want to get to this canyon. Well, realistically, unless you build a bridge, you're probably going to have to hike down or hike down and around and get to the other side. You're probably not going to leap across. You either have to build a bridge or you have to go down and around. And so going, for example, from, no money and broke and in debt to just being able to cover your bills and feel safe and comfortable and secure, where you don't want or need, you don't owe, that would be the next step. Having that peace of mind, that comfort. Then from that point on, if you want to, I'd like to now reach a financial state where I'm, maybe you're not a billionaire or a millionaire, but maybe you have some more financial freedom where you're more than comfortable. You're doing well. And then when you get to that phase, then you can think about and really make your goal and your target. Oh, okay, now I'd like some financial freedom. And the reason that's important is because you're more likely to succeed in that, because as Susie mentioned, you believe it's real. You believe it's possible. So when we're making these leaps and we want to make these transformations, even if it's as simple as experiencing what it's like to have no thought, you know, um, the way to do that is, to practice being present, not some sort of carbon copy meditation that people are calling meditations. Either practice some true meditation, which would be like a mantra or a white light meditation, not a guided meditation, or walking in nature in silence. That's a great way to learn to be present and get in silence. um Get the Power of Now or Stillness Speaks, where Eckhart Tolle gives these suggestions for getting gateways and doorways out of the mind. You only need to be able to do it for a split second in order to be able to then do it for 2 seconds, at which point you'll probably go, in that second or two of peace that you have, you'll, oh, just kind of breathe. Like, it's a freedom. And I did call it bliss when I first experienced it in a meditation, but at first it'll be peace. Anyway, that's just very, very important. And Susie, thank you for bringing that up. I hadn't thought about that big gap in reference to this conversation, but it's so significant. Yeah, and I love your meditation idea, using the Ho'oponopono meditation. That is such a beautiful idea because it focuses. I love how you brought like the gratitude in there and the self-love in there. That's such a beautiful way to focus the mind to free the consciousness.
Yeah. Something else that's coming up for me here, reading Deborah's comment, is I will see if I can attain this in my reality. And again, I would say, let's rephrase that to, I will attain this when I'm present, because our thoughts, we always say this regularly, our thoughts create our reality. So already I will see is a negative. It's negating the thing that you want to have happen. So it's taking away from that possibility, that reality. You've already put it there. I will see if I can. Well, I almost have this energy sense of, oh, I'm shrugging my shoulders. I'll see if I can. Yeah.
It's a self-limitation.
Yeah. So again, looking at when we want something to take place in our life, and we say, and I do this as a practice, maybe not so much now, but when I started off, if say I'd written this, I would go into it and I would look at it and I would think, how can I reframe that? What can I say? How can I make that a more positive statement than this? I mean, it's not a negative statement as we look at it, but when you break it down into that, I will see, can, if I can, they are two negative components that have come together to form a sentence that really isn't a negative sentence, if that makes sense, because it's like, I'm just trying. I was taught very early on by a mentor, there's no such word as try and there's no such word as can't.
I second that. I tell all my clients that. Oh, yeah.
I've lived by that premise for a lot of years now. Don't get me wrong, I do slip into those words. We all do. It's part of our natural vocabulary. And another one I remember, and it's probably slightly different to this that's coming to mind, is when I did my NLP training, there was we were taught that if you we would write long sentences or paragraphs about things, and then we would have to go back and look at it, see how we could reframe it. And if we put the word but in the sentence, we had to take it out, because but immediately negates everything that you wrote preceding it. And the mind goes, nah, don't want that. All of that we've said there how beautiful we want life to be, how things could be, what we desire, all of those. But literally, it's like it's an eraser for that's what I was taught, that it erase. And in practice, I did used to play with this, and I did realize that there were certain times that I'd write something, put the word but, write something else, and the previous lot just never happened. So yeah, so looking at what we write, how we write it, and just play with it, rephrase it. And again, this is something you can sit and call upon your angels, guides, etc., to help you with. You know, you can just say, right, I need help to rephrase this. How can I rephrase this? And just be open to what thoughts do, what, again, see words, thoughts, what messages come in, what is dropped into your conscious awareness, and just play. The other part of all of this, I feel as well, is about play and having fun with it. We take things way too seriously, and yeah, being present and having fun are two other good practices. But I'm also reminded as well of a practical tool that I was taught. One of my mentors used to be a Brahmin priest. He gave that up when he came to the UK, and he taught me a lovely little candle meditation, which I think gets bandied around out there, but I found it very valuable. It helped me, and that is just to sit with either a tea light or a candle and just focus on the flame and just be observing what the flame is doing, its colors, etc. Watching the smoke as it tendrils up, things like that. And I found that really does take you out of the mind and into the process of having no thought.
It does. And Susie, that's one of the examples that I was referring to. You know, like some people like the Zen counting or just the focusing on a candle. That, I believe, is one of the most ancient meditations, because people used to do that focusing on a fire.
Yeah.
You know, or the flame is entertaining, isn't it? It entertains the mind. But if you notice, just like walking out on a cool winter snowy day, it arises a sense of stillness and peace within us. So I think I love hearing that. I love that, to know that the Brahmin priests do that, because that is a meditation I have always done and always given my clients. And even if you think back, guys, to when you were a little kid and you saw a flame, weren't you just like entranced by it? Right? There's something about it, and it's nature. So it also has the natural flow and movement of things. So I'm so happy that you brought that up, Susie, because I think, oh, go ahead.
That's okay. Go on. It's just something else pops in, as you would say. With I think one of the little caveats I would put to doing the candle light meditation is to do it without any expectation. You know, sometimes people teach fire meditations or candlelight meditations with a specific purpose of looking for the spirit element of that candle or that flame, you know. And if you go through the elementals, of which are obviously angels as well, you know, in their own form, the fairy elementals, we have the salamander that's linked to the candle flame. And I personally would do, if I was doing that, I would make that something different. I would make that a different meditational practice, because when you're going into that and you're perhaps thinking to yourself, right, I'm going to do the candle meditation, but will I see salamanders? Will I see elementals? Will I connect to the elemental of that candle, that flame? You're taking away from the process, because you're then putting thought into it. You're then putting an expectation into it. So it's really just a process of sitting with it and not having thought.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. No, this is so so important, Susie, that you mentioned this, because it's actually not just relevant for the candle or the flame meditations. It's relevant for all meditations. It's actually one of my biggest pet peeves. People have been taught, and they come to me all the time, or they'll come for a reading, or they'll ask a question, and they'll say, well, I set this intention for this. No, don't. Do not set an intention. Do not have an expectation. Intention, expectation, those are mental things. Those are egoic things. Those are connected to thought. And one of the things that we're sharing with you today is from the ethereal realm, from the spirit realm, from your consciousness. It's not thought. Thought is a human thing and only a human thing. It's because you have a mind which uses your brain as a tool, and your consciousness, while you're human, is using your mind as a tool. So that can be used either way, right? It's the ego that causes you problems and makes you upset, hurt, jealous, scared. But it's also, you're here to be the being that you are and to wake up from that mental, cognitive mind self here in this world. And so what Susie's sharing with you is so pertinent, because as soon as you take a meditation and you make it a mental thing, it's no longer a meditation. It might be a mental exercise, an emotional exercise, a mindset thing, but it's not a meditation. If it's a meditation, it's going to be free of the mind. So, I'm so grateful, Susie, because I hadn't thought to share that part. It's very, very important, that you guys take that into account, because when you are free of the expectation and you just go into the meditation to still the thoughts and to experience the consciousness, to basically take that short amount of time to be free of thought, or to practice that freedom of thought, that stillness of mind.
Take that short amount of time to be free of. Sorry.
Wow. Sorry. Oh,
I was
like, no.
My phone just decided to kick in with Facebook.
What happens is, when you do that, is you actually block the experience that you would and can have. Because remember, I don't want to say what you're after is the experience of no thought, but it is. You're giving yourself an amount of time to reconnect with who and what you are, your greater consciousness, prior to the egoic veil. And so if you really want to have that experience, you can't be expecting or wanting or any of that. You will be surprised and amazed. Not every time. Sometimes you'll just have the experience and you'll go, oh, nothing happened. And I have clients say to me all the time, when nothing happened, it's not working for me. I'm not going to do that anymore. And my response to them is, what do you mean it's not working for you? How do you know? Isn't that a thought and a belief and a judgment? How do you know it's not working for you? And the reason they think it's not working for them is because they haven't had the mental or emotional experience that they think they should have that makes it spiritual. Let me share something with you guys. We all expect as human beings that our spiritual experiences have to be blissful and joyful and out of this world and unbelievable and, Hollywoodish. And the truth is they're not. They're not always. Sometimes they are, but not always, because we're experiencing it from human form. And part of it is us and where we are. Part of it is how we're processing the experience. But you know what? Your soul is still having the experience. Even if your egoic self isn't blown away by something bigger than life that you think's going to happen. And when we expect that, and then we cut ourselves short because we say, it doesn't work for me, I can't do it, it's not happening. It's not true. It is happening. You are making the connection. And as days and weeks and months and years go by, what will happen is you're growing stronger, you're awakening, you are evolving inside from those experiences, from those practices. But don't give up right away just because you think it's not working. That's a mental judgment. It's not the truth. I paused so you can say something.
I'm having a silence at the
Oh,
moment.
wonderful. Perfect. Then I want to quick jump in and share with you guys. So,
There's a no thought there.
well, I have this little story I've wanted to share.
Okay, lovely.
And all of you guys can have these little reminders all the time in your life. You know, remember, since we're trying to talk about today how spirit and angels are coming at this from a whole different perspective than you are, right? They're coming from a totally different place. They don't think like you do. They don't think, they're conscious, right? So I go to the barn every day. I spend hours a day at the barn. I have waterproof boots, then I have regular boots that are kind of waterproof, and I use them for different things, but I've got to wear these boots. And so about a week or so ago, my waterproof boots got a little crack in them. They got a rip in them. So I can't wear those in puddles of water anymore. I got to go get a new pair. And then I have these other boots that I've been wearing that I'm very hard on my boots, started falling apart. I'm like, oh my God. So the water boots are cold. The other boots are falling apart. Something happened to the lining and it started bruising my toe. So I went 2 or 3 days and I wore these boots, and it was just, my feet were in pain. And I didn't have time yesterday to stop at the barn. And I was talking to my mom and I said, God, I don't have any boots to wear to the barn that are comfortable. They keep my feet warm. They keep my feet dry. I don't know what to do. No, those were the requirements, right? I needed comfortable, warm, and dry. And I needed all that yesterday because it's been wet. And I was kind of stressed out because I thought, I do not have time to go an hour out of my way to get these boots, to buy a new pair of boots. So my mom said, well, it's funny because she said this morning I was cleaning out and I found this brand new pair of boots. And she said they're they go up your calf. They're really fuzzy on the inside. They're waterproof. And I'm thinking to myself, this cannot be real. I could see what they looked like in my head. So I was tapping into what she was saying while she was talking. And I'm like, those are not my boots. Like, I've never seen those boots before. My mom's like, what? She said they're a size 8, where I wear like a 7.5. So I thought, well, they might work if I double up my socks, which I do anyway when I go to the barn in the winter. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to, belief, guys, we're going to leave you with this today. We're not getting off yet, but we're going to leave you with this, the power of belief. I really feel like we need to talk about that today. I thought, you know what? I believe that everything's working out for me. I know everyone's looking out for me. That doesn't mean things always go my way. So don't think that because things aren't going the way you want and you don't have what you need when you think you need it, that does not mean things are not working out for you. It does not mean that. However, I went ahead and I was like, I'm just going to believe that this is exactly what I need. And the angels are helping me out here today. And, I got to my mom's house. She brought out the boots. I put them on. They could not have been more perfect if I went shopping for them myself. They are a perfect fit. They kept my feet warm for 6 hours with just my regular double pairs of socks. They were totally waterproof. I tried not to test it, but I ended up spraying water on them, stepping in puddles. My feet 6 hours later were so warm and so dry and so cozy, and those shoes were so comfortable. I could not have asked for a more perfect pair of boots. Now, where did they come from? I don't know. I believe that, yes, miracles happen, but I believe that miracles happen in practical ways because we're in physical form. So I do not believe that the angels just opened up a rift in space and time and dropped this pair of boots in my mother's house in some unknown random box so that she found them yesterday morning. I don't believe that, poof, that's how it happened. Do I believe that the angels assisted me? Yes, absolutely. I believe that the angels made that happen in some sort of practical way. I don't know what it was. I don't know if someone bought it as a gift years ago, these new boots, and somehow my mom just now found them and they'd been hiding in the back of a closet. I don't know if someone dropped them off. They were something my sister had bought, couldn't wear, and was going to get rid of. I don't know how it happened, and it doesn't really matter. I do believe it was a practical but foreseen way in which the angels orchestrated this pair of boots because they were perfect and the timing was perfect. And so, you know, I don't overthink it too much. I just say thank you. Thank you to the angels. And I use that as proof and validation that I had faith that I was going to have whatever. I didn't know how I was going to get through the barn yesterday, honestly. Can't do it without my feet.
No.
But I had faith that it was going to work out, and it did. So I invite all of you to think about even if you go through a day and you're struggling with something or you need something. This had been 3 or 4 days, guys. I'd been concerned about my boot situation. So those first 3 or 4 days, nothing happened, right? Things were happening under the surface. So keep in mind, if you think, oh, my prayers aren't being answered, things aren't working out for me, it may not be immediate, but the timing will be perfect. And when it happens, you're going to recognize the timing was perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I've got so many little stories like that where I've thought of something that I would like to have or need, and quite often then forgotten about it and not continued to focus on it. But one particular thing that comes to mind, because it's weather related, is probably about a year or so ago, my coat that I used to wear out for walking when I went out walking the dogs in the poor weather was starting to fall apart. And I started looking around at the different coats that were available, and none of them fitted what I really wanted. I wanted something that had a big furry hood and, you know, it was thick enough and warm enough to withstand the cold weather. Because here in the UK, I guess, compared to how cold it gets in the States and Canada, and I mean, I've got a friend in Canada who laughs at me when I tell her how cold it is, and she's like, nah, that's not cold.
You know, I'm with you on that one. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, I was at this point now where I was thinking I really need something thick and warm and cozy, lots of pockets so I can put all the bits in for when I go out walking, Peaches and my other dog that I had at the time. And I just couldn't find one. There wasn't one that just didn't fit what I was looking for. And then like a bit like you were saying, a few days later, it wasn't within minutes, it was certainly a few days, maybe a week or so, my friend who was living with me at the time came home and said, oh, my friend's giving this coat away and she thought you might like it. And I was like, okay. It is the best winter coat I have ever had. It's got the big thick furry hood, it's thick and padded, and it is so warm to go out in. Loads of pockets for like sticking treats in and all the necessary things that you need when you walk the dog, you know. And yeah, it is about the timing. She was having a clear out. She decided she didn't want this coat, and it was virtually brand new. Apparently she'd only had it 2 or 3 months and worn it a couple of times. And I'm like, perfect. Thank you so much. So yes, and I think we can not necessarily forget that that's what's happening, but I think we become, I don't know, immune to what's taking place, or we just think of it as, oh, it's a coincidence, rather than appreciating that behind the scenes, whether you believe in angels and spirit guides or not, or it's a universal energy that is working in collaboration with our spirit guides, our angels, our own energy field. And that is what's bringing it, for me, it is what's bringing it into fruition, you know. And it comes back to this comment, I will see if I can attain this in my reality. Our thoughts create our reality. You know, we think about something, and Larkin and I have had numerous conversations about how I've thought of something and then let it be, and it's manifested without actually really doing anything about manifesting it. So I think as well, sometimes there comes a point where we put that thought there, we allow it to be, and then we just forget about it. And it then comes to us, because I had actually forgotten, you know, that I'd not necessarily forgotten that I wanted the coat, but I'd sort of gone, well, actually, I can't find one that I like. I'll continue wearing the one
Right,
that I've
right.
got. You know, I just let it go. I stopped. But again, this brings in another, I guess, another tendril of energy that we perhaps would consider with when we're wanting something, as wanting to bring something into our lives, is the actions, that the steps that we need to take. You know, so for me, the action step was to go looking around for one. Like in yours was perhaps thinking about where you would need to go to find some boots, but didn't have the wherewithal or the time to do that. But the action thought was there, I need to do that. So it's a combination of bringing things together and then just trusting.
Yeah, that trusting is such a huge part. And I think throwing the request out there, and then, the letting it go part, guys, is so, so, so important. And that's something Susie's so good at. Getting to the point of surrender and acceptance in the situation and being like, okay, yeah, I need to do this, but then not letting go of the feeling of the need, right? Because even just in hearing you say that, Susie, every time I hear someone say that, it's the release. It's the release of the want and need that allows it to come to you. Because when we are intentionally manifesting, the way the law of attraction works is we receive what we already believe we have. We receive what we already feel that we are, do, be, or have. So when we are, I need this, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this? And we're figuring out the how. What we're really doing is we're saying to the universe, we're saying, I'm in this place of lack. I'm in this place of struggle. And to the universe, that says that's where you want to be. That's your request. When we are in a non-reactive mode, we're not reacting to the lack of, or the fear of not having, or the need to get. There is a release. It's like a trigger, and it just allows it to flow to you. And so that can become, our life is habits and repetition. So if you can make it a habit to develop a belief and faith and trust that things are always working out for you, even when you don't see the technical signs that your cognitive mind thinks it needs, and you throw that faith out there, there is a release of energy that allows things to boomerang back to you. And you'll notice that some people just be able to, just like Susie, they can think something, and in the perfect timing it will come back. And this is what I call effortless effort. When I'm teaching people to manifest, we're talking about that process of manifesting. It's not always what you think you want. You have to allow the universe to deliver it in the way that's best for you, which is not always what you think you want. And I think what people forget is that when you're hanging on to it, you're also actually hanging on to the how. I find that people all the time say, oh, I've let go of the how. Well, no, they really haven't. Because if there's a certain way you want and expect it to come, and you're measuring the time at which it's coming, that's part of the how. And that takes a lot of faith, guys. That's a lot of free fall. Jump out of that plane and trust that parachute's going to open. That's what it takes.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, and it can just become second nature, and for Susie, it really is. I mean, it's, kind of the way she naturally does things anyway. So it was, I think, more natural to implement it. But for a lot of people, letting go is not part of their natural implementation for anything. So it might be a little bit more of a struggle. Everyone's going to have a different level of struggle based on what your challenges are. But I think learning to let go is really a great thing anyway. It's a great practice because it gives you the freedom to be able to have that mindset that can serve you in so many ways in life.
Perfect. I've got a deck of cards that I'm not sure that we can call them cards, but they're I bought these, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago. Completely forgot I had them. And while obviously I've been packing up ready for moving, I found them. And each day I'd been just drawing one off the pile. And it's just caught my eye. I pulled it off the pile this morning, meaning to take a picture of it so I could post it, and didn't get round to it. So didn't actually read it. So I'm going to read it because I do think it's very relevant to what we've just been talking about here. So it says, this needs you to look at this coming change with positivity, as doing so will open up new opportunities to creation, as the signs are there for you to see. But if all you do is focus on the lost, then these possibilities will remain undiscovered, whereas acceptance will grant the ability to capitalize on what will be to take life onto the next phase. So
wow, that's amazing. That's what we started off talking about today.
Talked about positivity. We've talked about new opportunities being created and watching for the signs. We've talked about how it says focus on the lost. I feel that's more about focusing on where I was discussing reframing, that then these possibilities will remain undiscovered because we're focusing in the wrong direction. Yeah. And then just acceptance. Yeah. Letting go and accepting, trusting will grant the ability to capitalize on what will be to take life onto the next phase. And I don't think we could have said it any better.
No, not at all. That's unbelievable. Yeah, it's guys, it's amazing. I mean, cards are they're just a vehicle. It's not the cards themselves. They're a vehicle for us to make that connection and the message. And you could not have made this up. I mean, you're talking about pulling it this morning, and then we get on and look what we've talked about. You didn't even know what the card said. And it always blows my mind. It always blows my mind.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful.
And I don't know about you, but I think perhaps that's the perfect note to end on.
I think it is for today. Absolutely. Deborah and Tristan. Let's see if there's anybody else that said hi today. I'm not sure.
I think just Deborah and Tristan today.
Yeah, it was a lovely, quiet day today. I want to thank you both for joining us. If you guys have, are tuning in on the rebroadcast, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page listed here so you can, hear everything and participate in everything that we do. We can see who you are. You can comment. We have all of our other social media here that you guys can connect to if you desire. Susie and I are going to have some online events coming up together. And then I have a spirit guide event January 20th. If you guys want to be introduced to your spirit guides, you can check that out as well. But please watch the video I did Saturday 1st on my Psychic Medium page, because it's really a precursor. Spirit guides and angels work they're part of our team. They work with us, and it's important not to leave the spirit guides out. And just keep your eyes peeled, because Susie and I are going to have some fun things we're doing jointly together in 2024 for you, and some group online readings and things like that. So keep your eyes peeled and keep your eyes out for Susie's amazing lives. We love you all. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Tristan.
And all of you that watch on the rebroadcast.
And for those that have been watching but not commenting as well, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure, as always, to just spend this time with you. And I love it.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful night, day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you all next Monday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.